Uh, I think I might have just hit go live, and I think we are actually about to start this. I think it worked. Okay. I think there's about four people here waiting together, but JB worked through some kinks here. Appreciate your patience in getting the stream started up, but I believe we are technically live at the moment. So good evening, JB. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Yeah, glad we were definitely at the last minute here going through the tech stuff, but we're live. We're happy to be here. Episode 20. Can't believe that we're that far in already. How was the weekend for you?
It was good, pretty low key. It's a nice day on Sunday. Honestly, just a little bit of extra video gaming. We were doing a little bit of dabbling with Genshin, or what's it called? Genshin Impact. My girlfriend heard a little bit about it. She liked the graphics. I've never played it, but obviously heard a million things about it. And I'm like, I could kill some time. So we downloaded it, and really beautiful game so far. We've had a lot of fun with it. But other than that, pretty low key.
Yeah, I played that when it was first released and played it for a little while. I had a little bit of fun with it. The music was really good. The graphics were cool. Reminded me a lot of Zelda on the Switch
Yep.
in terms of like gameplay and like graphic style and everything.
Yep.
Hey
No,
Woodstock, hey guys, welcome in.
yeah, sorry. I'll try to fix that audio a little bit. JB, I don't know if I sound different to you either. My headset might be working up a sweat here, trying to.
Sounds okay for me.
Okay, okay. Well, good.
Oh yeah, in terms of gaming, I actually just dived into Baldur's Gate 3, which
Yes.
unbelievable game.
Is
Highly
it
recommend it. Yeah.
nice?
I was always
Nice.
a big like computer RPG player, back when all the old D&D style games like Icewind Dale and Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Yep.
And Larian Studios, they actually had made the Divinity series, which I was a fan of. It was very, very much a callback to those old games. So
Nice.
I was excited when they kind of got the rights to make Baldur's Gate 3, and they've really hit it out of the park.
Yeah. Everything I've
So
heard so far, it's one. It's like not a play, or not a pay to play game. It's one of
no,
those old school out of the box, buy it and play it, and a lot of people have received that really well, which obviously dying breed of a type of video game.
very refreshing. Lots of gameplay, lots of replayability. Yeah, it's cool.
Nice. Nice. Well, good. Well, tonight we have a general topic or a general lineup of topics to go over. And I know we wanted this to be a fan interaction as well. So please, you guys in the chat, pop up questions literally as you see fit. We're here to entertain everything. We got some stuff to talk about in between. Obviously, we have Raph, some Bart's results now that they've both been out for a couple weeks. We got some cool news with Summer Glaciella. We have yet to really dive in here on the podcast with a whole bunch of stuff. PvP, not even mentioning obviously the road to worldwide and the whole baggage that comes with that. Obviously, we're talking about that enough as it is, but yeah, if you
Yeah, I
give
mean,
me,
we had the 1 week off there. We kind of took a breather because of it was just like we said last time, just a little bit fatiguing, a little bit kind of annoyed at Gumi right now.
yep,
We'll see what they're gonna do. I think that this week the announcement of 28 days of Visior as kind of the next part of this 7,000 Visior.
hmm
It's again like another step forward. I feel like it's not the complete picture. They need to keep it going.
yep,
I think I would be pretty happy if they just continued to do that each month, give us another 7,000 stipend while they continue to go through the crunch. So if that ends up being 2 months, that's 14K. If it's 3 months,
right,
21K, whatever.
definitely.
Uh, but we also need other stuff. We need the leveling materials. We need triple drops everywhere.
The triple drops, I'm surprised they haven't. To think that the amount of Alchrists and like Truststone
Yeah.
stuff, I mean, triple shards does nothing for giving players necessarily a competitive advantage. It's not even like rare enough materials. It's just stuff that you just need to grind. And so to alleviate that pain point of just the grind, I'm kind of surprised they just didn't give us like the 2 to 3 times. But I just saw Mez mentioned the packs. I'm in agreement there. The packs are definitely something that are
Oof.
sorely missing. But I'm actually very hopeful at this point too for the double drop rate. Quite honestly, I was kind of thinking through that concept again, and we don't know which UR units, 100 cost units, they're going to do this for. But theoretically, that pity is normally 42,000 for the 100 cost unit. By reducing that, or I'm sorry, by doubling that to point 0.8, you have your pity amount. So it's 26K to pity, which I actually think is kind of a net save.
Potentially.
Potentially, right. If you, right, the expected odds of pulling. But
Yeah.
if you were to consider that you might be able to pull these units now for 26k instead of 42k, that actually is a type of like getting Viz back, even though it's not necessarily in your inbox. It is still technically like saving you Viz from having to purchase 42,000 worth. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeful
It'll
on
feel
that.
extra bad if you still have to go all the way to 42k, even with the
Oh
point
yeah,
eight.
yeah.
But they did specifically mention some UR units when in that announcement, which my thought immediately when I saw that is that Raf obviously wasn't going to get that, and we saw that this week. And then Summer Glassy, I don't think is going to get that either.
No.
I think that best case scenario is that all of the permanent units coming up, which is, Alaya, Jaden, Melnia, and then what was the fire mage? I
Oh,
forget her name.
one of the triplets.
Shawls? Is it
Shells,
Shawls?
shells. Yeah.
Shells, yeah. So I mean, and then Bronwell was the other one, yeah. So
Yes.
those like 5 or 6 units, hopefully they get the increased drop rates. And the 70 cost will already be at 0.8, so you know, hopefully Alaya, because that's the one I think that
Alaya.
a lot of people are waiting for.
Definitely, definitely. Well, we already
If
know
they
how good she
screw us
is.
over and they say, okay, here's Jaden and everybody else at 0.8, but Alaya is still 0.4,
Yep.
we know that they're screwing us over then. So hopefully it
Definitely.
doesn't come to that.
No, I agree. I agree, and I think everyone's kind of tapering their future outlook anyway. So I don't think anyone is really a lot of. I haven't seen a lot of copium. Let's put it that way. I've seen the majority of people be more pessimistic than optimistic, which actually is kind of a good thing. Where if your expectations are low, obviously you're not as disappointed every time they kind of swing and miss on us here. So that's kind of the way I'm approaching it too. I'm not really expecting much. So far, they're like 0 for 4 on promising new things and just repurposing
Yeah.
them. So I don't have a lot of hope that they're going to just out of the goodwill like change a lot of stuff. But if we're wrong, then fantastic. Obviously not expecting
Yeah.
that.
I was at least surprised to see 7,000 Visio for the month extra, on top of the regular login. So hey, that's a good step forward.
Yeah, I
So we'll
agree.
take it.
I agree. By the way, for those of you watching too, JB very creatively decided that, or offered, that we should be doing this with a beverage. So he and I both, uh,
Yes.
we're calling it Chardalis tonight, and
Yeah.
I'm concealing mine. So, uh, what I was gonna do something a little harder, but I went with wine because we said Chardalis. I didn't have any beer ready, so
There you go. Yeah, I went with the beer. Big beer guy. So
classic. It's a good stuff. So, have you been using RAF at all in Guild War or Arena this week so far? Just the bonus unit right now.
I have been, yeah. Well, Arena, I have not been yet. I probably should switch over that now that she's bonus this week. I'm still kind of playing around with Ferris and the water team just because,
Yeah.
I was excited about Ferris, and I know that she's not really knocking anybody's socks off, but she's pretty good. Like she's not chopped liver or anything.
No, definitely not.
And especially with Summer Glassy coming in, I've seen some impressive videos of her playing like that pseudo support, which kind of I think is her best angle. Her
I agree.
damage is only kind of middle of the road. So
I agree. Well, and I think the Summer Glassy gives a whole new level of survivability to Faris that didn't exist prior. That now it's an actual 40% physical damage down. You can maybe gear a little more for magic oriented things. I think that synergy there is great when you talk about a true brawl team because Faris is intended to be a really good brawl character, and that's obviously hard to do as consistently nowadays. But that 40% damage down around her is really really strong.
what do you think of the Glaciella uh with Celis? Do you think that's a thing?
I don't think it needs to be a thing. I think she's tanky enough and enables some tankiness that I see no reason why you would take away Celeste and as opposed to some other kind of utility character that offers something more. The good thing about Celeste obviously is the tanking capability with the hate, but the AoE res down, in my opinion, obviously is the biggest thing about her. But when you consider that, you also have like Miranda with the guaranteed hit. Now, obviously, Ferris can be very accurate, but if you want that extra dispel in there, I still think Astrius has a time and place. And when you talk about like whether you go, how many physical damage dealers, you got to like weigh your vision cards, which ones are magic, which is physical. But I think Water's got so many other creative options. Perrine, obviously top of that list. Even Amnelits for those holding out. That I don't know if Celeste like offers enough to go over them because the other two are already so darn tanky and self-sufficient together.
Yeah, I was just thinking more of like having the runic plus the area of effect physical damage reduction going at the same time.
Yep.
I think you would need like a really primo damage dealer to go with those two, just because they're the damage coming from those, those units isn't going to be all that spectacular. So
I agree.
I don't know. I could see it being interesting to play around with. I don't know if it's really all that compelling. I do like Amnelis. I think that's one of the biggest problems with her is her trying to move up and then start casting her ternary seal,
Yep.
and then she just gets blown up because some big AOE comes in. Especially like magic, she's okay against. Physical has really kind of been her downfall. So
Yep.
getting that 40% on there, I think, is going to be pretty big for her.
Absolutely. Well, we also consider she has the heal back ability that she can grant to teammates. And then with Faris also doing some pseudo healing on the side between attacks, I think the three of them together add a ton of extra self sustain. And yeah, they solve a very big problem for Amnelis with the lack of physical durability. That I think even her passive, if you consider it's like if you're above the 70%, you get courage. And so that heal back that she's going to get from Faris this whole time actually might break that threshold quite often. That she gets healed up and then falls below 70%, gets healed back up. So I think that's a really fun thing to potentially entertain.
Yeah, she does have the 50% magic barrier she can put on. I think Glassy has a physical barrier that comes. I want to say,
Yeah.
as part of her kit, so it would stack together, which is kind of cool.
Yep. A lot of really good options. Water really needed that.
North of Main Street says Ferris is working great with Astrius and Celis. Yeah,
I could see that. A lot of slash damage, obviously, so you do get those water chains. Really, obviously, solid units. I don't think there's anything wrong with Celeste. I feel like we weren't there, talking down about her. It's more just like what's the best potential team. But even then, that's subjective. But yeah, that's.
I feel like
great combo.
Celis, the key is just being able to get off both of her buffs, which
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be, especially if you're trying to use the 4 movement, can be a
Right.
problem.
Right, absolutely
But-
right. You don't want to go bow tie there and give up a valuable equipment slot just for the extra buff. But then again, if that's the difference between winning, maybe you do that.
But that's the team that I've been using in Arena is Celis, Ferris, and Perrine. And Celis kind of leading off with Magic Burst and getting the area res and peril. Works really well, obviously, for Perrine, and then Ferris with her healing attack. She'll start preferring that, and then get the heals off on everyone. So it's been working pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, and then Lucifer in chat brought up the Dark Siren as well, where that is an Earth and Water card. Obviously, really cool synergy. Brought up the great point of throwing Bradley in the mix there. I think you can throw Bradley in the mix in any team, and probably works really well. So yeah, that recommendation for Ferris, Glacial, and Bradley is a real thing, and that is a very cool combo to consider those two elements together.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty cool card. It's we know that it's 15% agility, and then it also is giving strike resist as the party effect as well. So obviously, definitely tailored kind of to hedge against Alaya a bit there with the strike resist. So I don't know. I think that if you're trying to take down Glassy, you're probably going to be looking at lightning magic.
Absolutely.
I think Skahal is continues just to have so much value. So he's going to get us a third or fourth life here.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. That, and actually there is some good counterplay to that Summer Glassy. That, from what I recall, the 40% does not apply to her. It only applies to the teammates. So that is some really good counterplay. That if you just say you're going to focus down that unit, and what's the unit? Skahal could be that guy, probably is, that can one-shot her. There goes the strategy. So I don't think it's obviously meta-defining, but I think there's counterplay, which is just a good thing for them to do.
The other amazing thing about that aura is that it's also 40% accuracy.
Yes.
Which is massive. Like that, enabling the teammates where maybe you can forgo the Alex ring now and throw on some armor or throw on whatever. And you're not beholden to building up that accuracy. 40 is really significant. So
very much so, I agree.
Especially for Ferris, where she's kind of relying on the unit resist, area resist, and kind of stacking onto what she has naturally. If she can maybe drop the Alex ring and still be able to reliably hit evade, that's That's really strong.
Definitely.
But
Well, if I recall too, I when I was doing the character review, she doesn't start out crazy innately. There's some things you have to work up with her in terms of obviously her buff going off. You have to have the passive on potentially. Um, Innate accuracy is fine, but there's a lot of things in her vision card too. Sildra in particular offering that big chunk of accuracy. That you're right. If you're not actually investing in all of those sources, by giving her that 40 for free, actually does make up for that because she does not have the guaranteed hit in case you mess it up somewhere along the way in your calculation. But yeah, that's an awesome, awesome buff for them.
Elish in chat says it's frustrating watching these kids have 12 affixes on every ability. Function creep on units is getting annoying. I can see that. I mean, it's part of like the compression, role compression of the game where the units are, they're not really improving as much in the statistics department. It's really the ability power creep that has come into the game where, yeah, Glassy is providing role compression. She's giving you some support capabilities as kind of like this walking buff bot, in addition to just tanking and being essentially comparable to what Raph and Dialdo bring, even before you even talk about the aura.
Yep,
She has the heal back, she's got the courage and all these things. So
it's good stuff. But no, but
yeah.
Alice brings up a good point, and I think that was a topic question we discussed with RNJ in terms of characters getting complex. That is one of the kinds of power creep that we're seeing nowadays, where you get these characters that have four abilities on them, where most other characters, old characters, only have one, maybe two, if you give them that like 120 upgrade or whatever. So yeah, that's a definite ability power creep. I have mixed opinions on it because on the one hand, obviously more complex things makes it harder for people to enjoy the game more casually, and obviously the power creep is kind of a bad thing for those that want to hold on the units longer. On the other hand, I do think it's a decently good thing because when you talk about a lot of these rainbow teams, um, it comes down to how good the character is. So in order to get away from some of the crutches of like the teammate bonuses, if you will, I do like the concept that you make these characters individually strong, that you can put them in any situation and they're going to function great because they have everything they need internally. I think those days of like, oh, this character's good, but they need this teammate to give them the accuracy buff, or they need this teammate for this or that. I think the more you get away from that and make the characters stand on their own, you're going to find a lot more opportunities just to use them more widely because you're not going to need that perfect team lineup to like account for all their weaknesses.
Yeah. One thing that I am actually another thing with Summer Glassy is that this sort of new aura ability seems to me like the new kind of direction for the game, where
Yep.
we're going to start seeing all these characters come in with these different undispellable aura abilities. And I think that I think it's a cool development because assuming that they're similar to what Glaciella brings, you're gonna I think it does give some new life to older units in that you can start bringing them in, and these auras are so powerful that they can start hedging against natural weaknesses or build upon strengths of, various different units and allow you to use them differently. So I think it's a pretty cool development for the game. I'm already kind of playing around with different combinations in my head of
Yep.
who would be best to bring with Glassy, and how can I best enable uh, who can I use to take down the Skahals that are going to be inevitably trying to
Right.
kill her.
Yep.
So
Yeah, no, it's true. That's it is a creative concept, and I do like it as well, where it gets around some of the dispel effects, or at least allows you to proc them more often. So if you get dispelled, it ends up being reapplied. So I like that. Just strategically speaking, it can probably get out of hand. Quite honestly, though, and probably get to the point where you start forgetting, exactly who has what, and everything's already so complex as it is. So that could be a bad thing for the game. But I do like it as a creative thing to sprinkle in. And the one thing I've noticed so far is that most of them, and I'm curious where Gumi's end goal is here from a design and balance perspective. Most of them are obviously AOE, where if you're within 2 to 3 squares away, you get these effects. And so they're obviously incentivizing you to keep teams kind of bundled. And we already know right now AOE res is like one of the top best things you can get. That I am kind of curious how they're intentionally trying to cater teams to be more huddled than they had been maybe historically because the upside is way better because of all these auras that are around. So I'm very intrigued what that does for characters that skew more like AoE attack heavy or more unit attack heavy. I think it's going to add something interesting.
well, I mean, they certainly are. It certainly kind of fits into the bucket of they've created this problem with Alaya coming up that there's essentially no way to stop her damage, right? Unless you have kind of the natural earth, counter,
Right.
resistance. Um, and this is a new way that they've developed to fix that problem where it fixes a lot of problems, to be honest. There for a long while, as Woody said in chat, the resistance penetrations have been kind of too much, I would say.
Yeah.
I think, once they got beyond 40, 50%, all these resistances essentially became worthless, for better or for worse. So
Yeah.
this is kind of maybe a soft reset of that. At least, I mean, they'll still play a part in kind of the total mitigation, but this, at least, you're going to block a certain percentage. You'll be able to at least live one hit against some of these juiced up damage dealers. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I agree. And even the increase in penetration, yeah, that's a tough thing because you already had defense and spirit pen. Theoretically, you have pen for everything. You do technically have elemental res pen. It's just not in the game yet, really. But like some characters do have it, so it's on the table to go that way if they ever want to. They probably will, quite honestly. But yeah, once you start getting into all of these penetrations, I think the biggest thing that makes it difficult again is the user experience. That if you're in game, the menu tells you one thing and the results tell you something else. You can open your King Mod screen and see 80 defense and 65 slash res, and you're like, wow, he's like really tanky. It's going to look great. And then obviously you see none of that in practice. And I think that's like a tough thing for people to constantly, reevaluate the math in their head.
yeah, definitely. So, I mean, what we kind of went off into the glassy, the glassy future there. We were starting off with Raf, and
Yeah.
what have your experiences been so far with Raf?
Uh, only arena, only a little bit of testing so far in Guild Wars this week. I think she's fine. I'm not underwhelmed. Let me rephrase that too. But she's beatable. That team is still very beatable. She's a definite upgrade to Dwayne, but I don't think it's an overpowering, undefeatable team. There's still a lot of ways you can beat Dark. You just have to do it a little bit differently with her than you would with Dwayne. But even theoretically, like I know Dwayne, a popular build is the zombie mask build, so you already have that tank that had re-raise applied. He also has the innate hate, not necessarily the buff that gives hate. So in terms of like starting the fight with X amount of hate, he's already got that similar with her. So it's been good, but yeah, not sweeping off my feet. How about you?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of our experience because we had the upgraded Dwayne here in Global that JP
Definitely.
never had. And I agree. He has been quite good. He's quite usable, still usable. Raph, I think the nice thing that she brings is the huge AoE break to 4 stats.
Big.
Is
Yep.
Even though it's only 20%, it's still pretty nice because it's just she almost is always able to hit multiple units with it.
Yep.
And then the healing power on her, it's almost like a Warrior of Lights where she can pop off and get the 9 or 10,000 heal back, which is definitely takes the wind out of your sails when you're fighting her.
Absolutely. Well, and it's only going to get better too theoretically with the Greater Demon. That's giving her more healing power on the unit ability
insane.
for the card, right? And then to go with that team, we're also getting the Darkfina MA2 this week as well. So she's getting more survivability. I think the cool thing with her is, I know, kind of segueing, just talking about Dark Meta, we'll go back to Raph, I'm sure. But that unit res, some of the most popular re-raise abilities, like Dispels, like King Bradley, for instance, is a single target attack. So that's actually a really good thing for her in that matchup versus him, that I don't think he can kill her with the re-raise attack anymore, where I think he used to be able to near one-shot her and Dispel re-raise and she was done. And I don't think that's mathematically as possible now. So Dark is going to get a whole lot better here. I think it's probably just going to take a couple weeks till we... And it's also the maps, too. The maps are always a big factor in that, too.
Yeah, so she gets 10 unit resistance and then 20 crit evasion.
Yep.
For her MA2.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
And North of Main Street, just called it out too. And he's right. It's still early for Raph. Once the VC for her comes out and Max Transcendence. Now, obviously, yes, if you are, and I'm not sure if he means Max Reincarnation, but she is a target for many for Max Reincarnation. That's a game changer. But I do agree, the Vision card coming out does do enormously different things for her. I think it's going to switch in a couple of weeks when the Melnia Vision card comes out, because right now, the Greater Demon card is technically a great main slot Vision card for her on the team, you can Black Rosalie into the subvision card slot. And when you main slot that Greater Demon, again, you get that 24, I think 24% slash res, 24% strike res. Those two alone, those two resistances are massive for her in a lot of what we're seeing that she's lacking at the moment. In addition to the AoE res on the unit effect, which is 10, and 5 AoE res on the Esper. So you're talking a difference of 15 AoE res. So yeah, I agree. The lack of vision card is a big differentiator to what her true upside is.
So when we do get that Great Demon card, are there any sort of rainbow comps that you're gonna be looking to play around with, or are you gonna go straight into the dark team?
I'm probably going to go straight into the dark team, but let me bring up your job vision card tool again here, because I did brainstorm a couple. I was intrigued with the concept of throwing Lena in that team, not necessarily for the teammate re-raise on her. Where is this card? My goodness. Um, but even for someone like Sephiroth, where if you say, if you can line them up to give Sephiroth that re-raise and have her give him that extra damage boost, and meanwhile you're pocketing Wrath, there's a lot of good characters in that card that I do like the concept of throwing Lena in there instead of Dark Fina. I do think Sadali is a great candidate too with that all element res. I still think that's really valuable. But that's kind of my first hits. But there's obviously a lot of other really strong characters. How about you? Have you brainstormed anything?
Well, Sottile would definitely was one that was piquing my interest. You know, with him getting the level 140 upgrade this week.
Yep,
and,
we'll be talking about that soon too. Yep.
Yeah. Aside from that, I don't know. I mean, I think Dark is definitely the strongest if you're, you know, purely looking at this card. The light options aren't super compelling either if you wanted to kind of pair this with Dark Bahamut.
Right.
I don't know, maybe like for limited situations you could do something interesting there. There's a lot of like limited all-stars there.
I agree.
But yeah.
No, I think
maybe Galzak. I don't know. Again for like the limited.
Right. And that's kind of my angle. I was looking at more of the supports, where right now Dark doesn't have that dedicated support. You know, Lemure was a very specific thing for more haste and quicken than anything, but you have a tank with a great health pool. You know, we've seen those healers before really self-sustain a lot of these or sustain these tanks, and I think there's a lot of good options on the Mace card here that are good technical supports that I think would be interesting to throw in the mix with her.
Hey Hydrex, welcome in. Yeah, this is this is our first live, so excuse the polish issues if there are any. But yeah, we decided this is episode 20. Just kind of do something cool to kind of celebrate. So we're having some drinks here and yeah, having some fun.
Yep. Yeah. So you guys, if you need us to talk up, or if one of us is louder than the other, or who knows what, definitely shout out in chat. We don't want to let that go unannounced. But yeah, and also, I mean, for those of you joining, if you have questions or comments, keep spitting them out. We're here to just kind of take questions live. We're just, like I said, shooting the breeze, having some Shardless. I mean, you know, just talking about Glassy, which you did, Raph, which you did, Greater Demon, which we are, the Road to Worldwide. Every time we feel a little bit angry, that'll come up again. But yeah.
Nice, 80 folks. Love it.
Right on.
Yeah,
right
so
on.
another thing about Raph, one team that I've been playing around with lately is the one I showed you earlier, which I am mixing Dark and Light already, and I'm doing Stern, Bartz, and Raph, and having all like the big AoEs, and they kind of naturally are sticking together, getting off all the follow-up attacks from Bartz. It's working out pretty good. You know, like it's not like the best team I've ever seen, but it's definitely I think, you know, I think it's doing better than people expect when they look at it.
Absolutely. Right, and you made a good point too. Her Diamond AoE is so forgiving that when you talk about that Bart's follow-up, there's a lot of good opportunities, and because it's defense down, that technically should increase, or will increase, his follow-up damage too. So there is a really cool synergy there between the two of them. And him having that AoE res buff, like there's just some good movement stuff too that they work together well.
Yeah, so Raph, her damage formula does include like luck, agility, dex, if I remember correctly. So she will always move towards Bart's if he's kind of in range to get the affinity bonus.
Awesome.
So it works out perfectly for what you're trying to do there.
Yeah. No, I'm sure there's going to be many more teams coming up here too, and I'm sure people are going to sprinkle in other versions of Dark as well. I know Leela the Bold will be getting her 140 very shortly here now that we've had that accelerated timeline. I'm sure even Ruben Stern has some good overlap there with that other giant, AoE. There's some overlap with the defense break between the two abilities, but I think a lot of people are going to be able to use a lot of different teams and just get good success because she's just a good tank in all situations.
I'm actually pretty excited for Leela the Bold. I've kind of missed using her. She was always like one of my favorite dark units when she first came out because she essentially shut down that light meta that was plaguing us for so long.
Yep.
So always will have kind of fond memories of that unit, even though I do still think that her Diamond's Dispel is broken, as is Edwards.
I was just saying, you can't call that broken and not bring up Edwards' giant,
Yeah.
AoE anywhere. But actually, we have a couple questions here. Let's get to before they
Sure.
get away. On the note of, I think you're saying mixing dark and light. Noctis Lucius added a question. Do you think Sylvie and Addison will change the matchup versus dark? And that light's got a lot of teams to use with those recent additions. I can answer that confidently, yes, at least for Addison. I don't necessarily think Sylvie per se, but Addison 10 billion% changes that matchup. She does exceptionally well in every situation I've put her in so far.
Sylvie needs the 140 upgrades. We'll have to see what kind of comes with that. I assume that's we're going to probably see some stuff around that in September because at the fan meetup, they did tease the new Elena card. So I'm assuming that's probably their plan for the next kind of global fest, and those units will finally get their upgrades.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens for Shadow Links and what happens for Sylvie, but hopefully they get treated well.
Yeah.
But I agree about Addison. I feel like she got a lot of flack in the community, but the unit was good. All the medals that we got were good from the events.
Yep.
But yeah, I've been using her too. She's the limit burst is so good with the slow and the.
Yep, and her AoE and Peril Down, even her jamming thrust for everything it's worth on the Red Mage sub has been really clutch for me too. The range is really good. Being a unit-oriented attack, obviously not everyone's gearing for it, so it just crushes a lot of people. That's my ability that'll damn near one-shot King Mon. It's absolutely awesome to witness.
I will say though that I have one crazy person in my guild who has max reincarnated Raph, and he had already max reincarnated Sephiroth, and I can't beat his team no matter what I do.
Yep.
Now that before he reincarnated Raph, I could beat it with the Addison Stern Warrior of Light team.
Yep.
I can't beat it now. This map definitely has maybe a little bit to do with it, but the damage is just not there.
No, she's got that. There's enough heal back opportunities for her and the reduced damage opportunities. That health pool is near insurmountable when you reincarnate these new age tanks. They're excellent candidates. Not surprised to hear that at all.
Yeah.
Actually, on that note, we have someone in our guild who has a max reincarnated Dialdo and running that with max reincarnated Bradley. And last night we were playing Chocobos, number 1 or number 2 guild, and they were running a wind wall. And this person with a max reincarnated Dialdo and Bradley could take on that wind wall, and they won on the first swing. That's how strong it is.
Yeah, especially if Bradley, especially if he's getting off his counter buff, where he gets the non-elemental damage, then he can quite easily do that.
Yeah.
Even if they are stacking up a ton of wind resist.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if, and we'll continue these questions. These are actually awesome, guys. Keep these coming. North Main commented on the Addison discussion that someone had mentioned that Addison isn't problematic for Raph. I don't know if I'd say problematic. Raph does have Shell. Now, I do think there is Shell Dispel in Addison. I could be wrong, though. It's been a while. But I don't know if Addison is problematic. If anything, it might be because of the courage, potentially. But even then, Sephiroth can dispel that. I don't know if it's problematic, personally.
Raph is holding up quite well in my testing. Granted, I haven't reincarnated my Addison. I haven't reincarnated any of my light units, so that's kind of it's not apples to apples there, but she's holding up very, very well, especially if you're using Diabolos, which you probably should.
Yeah, definitely. And Woodstock Winds brought up the next question here about building a limited wind or dark team using any one of the new ones that were upgraded this week. So Flag Lassie, Sadali, Raph, Darkfina. I think so. I can't see why you couldn't. All of these units getting the upgrades this week, Flag Lassie, Sadali, Raph, Darkfina, are all still top tier units, and all could be carries on a limited team. I see no reason why you couldn't.
Lassie got an insane upgrade for a unit that was already like, top of the pecking order for kind of her era of the game last year. She's getting like an insane amount of area like I think she gets another 20 area resist onto
I
what she had.
I think it's 10. I was checking that this morning. I will double check now, but I thought it was only 10. I could be wrong.
Let's double check that because I think she gets more like also like in her passive. Maybe it's only 10 though.
Could be. So I know the one of the upgrades here. It's this passive ability that's getting the upgrade, and it's going from AOE res of 20 to AOE res of 30. So it's getting 10 extra. I don't know if there's any more than that. I think that's in her kit. So I think it's just the 10.
Okay.
Unless I'm going to check. Either way, that's great for the Bradley matchup. As we know, he just spams that AoE attack, so that's a big part of it, obviously.
But she gets some like she's not getting the MA2 yet. Then this week it's just the 140. Because I think in the MA2, I believe she got the MA2 and the 140 at the same time in JP or close together. But that one gets the other 10 in her MA2.
That would make sense. So Transcendence has been announced. Character Quest MA2s. Only Dark Fina and McLeod this week, so not quite yet. But you're right. That's where the other one comes from. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So she's not quite fully operational yet, but she's getting that significant upgrade there with the debuff weakening too.
Yes, that's a big one. Cool. All right, we'll go to Kamasuke's question here now about recommendations on countering the new Seph, Raph, and Dark Fiend Dark meta. Many players suffering trying to compete against it. What elements, units, gear, and espers are the best shot? I know I have a couple that come to mind for me. What about you?
So I think there's the one that we've been talking about, which is kind of the standard that we've gone to, the whole way through, which is stacking up dark res on a light team. I think it's a little bit harder, as I've already been seeing it. I think that you will probably want a unit that has a light imperil. So I think Lucio could be good. We'll have to kind of see what happens to Summer Kilfei.
That's a big one.
She also has that light imperil. They're very rare though within the element. I think also like if you're going light, you might want to lean towards magic because Raph is definitely much more astute at mitigating physical damage. Same thing for Sephiroth too. So
good point.
Outside of that, if you have the latest water units, I think that they can beat it.
I agree.
But maybe fire. I saw some people in JP play around with Rain and Kefka. Like if you have that trio of units, Rain, Kefka, and Roy, I think they used, and it did pretty well.
I could see that.
But I think they didn't have Hio at that point, so we had Hio earlier, so you could throw Hio on that team and do pretty well.
Yeah. But I agree. That's a well-rounded team that obviously does everything nearly great. You have a couple great imperils from a couple different people. You have some great buff options where they can move to teammates or straight ahead. I think I'm with you about the dark res. That's really the numero uno way to go about that in terms of going for these are limited at this point, unfortunately, which is tough. But like if you're going light, they do have a 20 dark res card. It's the Final Fantasy 14 card. Yeah, Final Fantasy 14 card. But then also you have your Valfor Esper, which is also limited. But really just starking that dark res. And after that, I think it's going more for the AoE res than anything, or that is some of their forte. I don't know if there's a particular element that I think does best. I think you hit the nail on the head with water being a really good candidate that initial releases. But should you not be able to do that, man, that's a well-rounded team.
I think Wind will be able to do it as well with Sadali and Glassy getting big upgrades this week too.
I could see that, throwing a charm on Raph. That'd be pretty nice.
I think the problem that was seen in JP and that we're going to run into as well is that especially it's probably more so a problem for people who play at the top end of the game, but when you lean too deeply into the dark resistance, you really limit how well you do against the rest of the elements in the game. So
absolutely,
if people are being diligent about swapping out their walls as they are like in the top 10, top 15, you can be stuck on cleanup duty that day if there's a problem with your team taking down other elements.
Yeah, No, agreed. Yeah, and I don't think it's a good answer for answering that question. If there was an easy answer, you wouldn't see that meta in JP. Um, we probably have some stuff here that we can contest with it, but it's going to take some creativity.
I think that Alaya definitely kind of disrupted it, but it's going to be a little different for us because eventually we are going to start getting this crunch. For some reason it didn't happen this week or last week, but I'm assuming after the summer units they're going to start getting kind of giving us a ton of stuff. So the meta is going to play out a little bit differently. We're going to start getting stuff faster than
Right.
what JP had it. So the legs on certain metas may be shortened or lengthened, kind of depending on how things play out. So
Yeah,
it's going to be very much in flux.
it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, we'll keep moving along here too because God, such great questions. Thank you guys. The next one here, hold on a second. Where were we? Was from Sushi Wotive about with water getting a great tank and a new Dark Esper now, is fire again the weakest element? If I can kick this off, and I think I'll speak on your behalf too, I'm going to say no. They're not the weakest element. I do know that they're probably one of the harder elements for people to use right now because most people probably skipped on Kefka, probably didn't pull that vision card, probably haven't invested in Roy either in terms of prioritizing the Full Metal Alchemist units. I think Fire still has some of the most like diverse cast where they have some really heavy hitting magic users. You obviously have a bunch of different great evade units. They all do something differently between Sorrow, Yuffie, and Eldyra. You do have that more brawl style between Rain and King Mont and Hyo. Cetia's doing whatever I guess on the side as a missile unit, but you get the point. There's a lot of different fire builds. I just don't know if everyone's equipped to use those, but I don't think there's anything wrong with them balance wise.
I mean, I can definitely see where he's going with that though, because
Yeah,
like you said, if you haven't pulled Kefka or some of the new units, you're going to be kind of struggling to put out a competitive fire team, I think.
right.
Because fire evade, I think, is firmly going into more niche surprise play category. It's not something you can run day in and day out.
Yep.
I did it for as long as I possibly could, but it's definitely not doing as well right now.
Yep.
Especially with Raph coming in the game and just being so tanky and also having a guaranteed hit that she can just outlast, whatever Yuffie can do.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, we'll have to kind of see what happens with light. I think that not a lot of people have built some of the limited units like Addison. I think we're among kind of a small minority there that's have built her up. I think that she's one of the better light units that has come along outside of Bart's. I think that those two units in particular are better than Stern that we got earlier this year.
Addison has single-handedly won me many games at the top end of the ladder. She's been exceptional for me. Yeah. No, if I'm going weakest element, I think Lightning has a candidacy there. I'm relatively unimpressed with Lightning by and large. It's going to change with Alaya coming out, but I think right now they got obviously very one-dimensional for a while with Skahal, and even that team was like cookie cutter. You couldn't deviate from that formula because it was just perfect harmony. And even now, Vega hasn't really done much. I doubt most people have him ready to go anyway. Alphonse is still fantastic, but better in Fist, more so even than Lightning. Lightning seems a lot of those units are kind of 2 steps behind everyone else at the moment.
I think once Alaya comes in, I would probably downgrade Ice to the worst in the game. I would put Fire above Ice right now.
That's my other thing too. I would agree with that. Ice is still very good with the Eliza Snow combo. Outside of that, really difficult. And you know me, we've got on this side here. I know you have Reagan, Howlett to go with it though. That's very difficult duo to make work. Jaden coming out soon has shifted the needle from what we can tell in JP, but that needle, you go from 0 to 10. That's not really a great shift in the needle, but. Yeah.
Howlett, I think, was a pretty big miss for me. I do have him maxed out, and I have tried to use him quite a bit. He's too one-dimensional. He's not tanky enough. I think that Glaciella, he's similar to Amnelis. I think Glaciella will enable him quite well, and he actually will enable her quite well with the absorb capability that he can bring in.
Yeah.
And then also kind of the slash res penetration debuffing. So I think that combo works very well. Right now, I think he's like a dead duck. Like he's not very good.
So I think he's true glass cannon. So I don't want to say he's not good. Out of all the characters I play with, though, he'll either, like you said, either die in 2 hits, which is nearly all the time, but he's also frequently one of my most common max damage characters. There's so many fights where between him and Reagan, what they do for imperils with each other, some of the chaining opportunities on Reagan as a couple, quite frequently I'll see Howler just go bam, max damage to someone like on cooldown. And I don't recall many characters hitting max damage that easily as of late. I know Addison technically is one; she'll do it for me as well. But outside of that, he's unique in that in this stage of the game, him and Reagan will two-shot literally anybody under the sun. Like I think that's really special.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, so we'll keep going down here. So Ellie and Strife brought up a question about the new Elena card that you hinted at earlier. Was that an interview that they hinted at that coming in?
They teased the artwork during the fan festa that they did like 2 months ago or a month and a half ago.
Got it.
And they said that it's coming in September. So September is going to be the 2-year anniversary of Elena when she first dropped back in 2021. So maybe she's going to get some special upgrades then. Who knows? Maybe they'll give her that new LB upgrade.
Yep.
And then the new card maybe could give her something interesting. We'll have to see.
That makes sense. Good. All right, so we're going through some other questions here. Just a second. I think this next one is from Nishiro, talking about knowing that water is the most hated element. I don't know if that's the right adjective, but only 4 hated by Gumi.
Yes.
Yes, I'll agree with that. Yeah, only 4 espers, 100 cost units always get countered by a new lightning unit the next week. That is absolutely true. Asters came out and they went, bam, here's, oh my god, Esther. And yeah, now you have Alaya. Good lord.
Wait, Kamasuke says he's in my guild, but I have no idea who that is. That's like a different handle than I'm used to.
Oh, that's always fun too. You get a guest on here talking and you have no idea that it's like someone you've known forever. But yes, Gumi does seem to have a weird relationship with water. They've come up with a lot of creative units. They've just never been a home run.
I am very excited to finally see the data for Dark Siren, though, and kind of see what that Esper looks like, just because the last UR Water Esper was Leviathan at like the 5th or 6th month of the game. 3 years.
It's wild.
Yeah, so hopefully it's good. We'll see.
I have no doubt it will be. It has to be.
Yeah.
To be fair, they've knocked it out of the park with most espers as of late, in terms of
I mean, the general populace was pretty underwhelmed with Dark Golem, but you and I talked about it. I think the Esper is good.
I've had him on every tank I can possible. Fantastic. Yeah. So,
Woody says, who do you favor in the Wind versus Dark matchup after the upgrades?
I still say Dark.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Wind can be competitive if you're angling towards the Dark Resistance, and you put Demon Wall on Joom, get your Dark Resistance accessories. I think it'll clear that team. Glassy is still very good. That's the weakness of that Dark team is Pierce, and they're not typically going to be bringing in the Pierce Resistance card. So
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, Wind can win. You just have to tune it for Dark. I think Dark can probably beat more things than Wind can, though, just on the generic setup. But yeah, I would favor the Dark over the upgrades. The upgrades are really good, but I don't. Although it's hard for me to say too because we are getting the accelerated timeline. Our JP impressions aren't the same here. JP had like weeks and metas to tinker and explore, and we're kind of get everything crunched together. That there might be some unintended matchups that we didn't see earlier.
Yeah.
Oh God, Ferris asks a really good question here. Don't put me through this. Are there any units you regret investing in, pulling for, looking back? I know he regrets not getting Demon Wall. JB, any character regrets for who you pulled?
That I regret investing in? Yeah, like every permanent pool character that's come out this year, basically.
I'll agree with that. I'm looking at the list here. Yes, Howlet I should not have pulled. I am very happy with Reagan. I've had good results with him. But
I would probably put Howlet at the top and Reagan not far behind him.
I think
just because I feel like I went straight into the Earth and now I'm kind of playing around with Water and Dark, so I just didn't really get the use out of them that they weren't good enough to kind of continue using.
I could see that. I think Viga's top for me, and I think Resol is another one. I have literally never needed Resol. I've used her, but I've never needed her.
Yeah, Rugia and Resol both were the duds of this Warrior of the Crystal
Yep.
run.
That's as of late. I think all time, man, I don't know if there's an all time that's absolutely burned me. It, hold on, sorry guys, I'm scrolling through this list here. Maybe Golbez?
Yeah, I can see Golbez. He wasn't super expensive though. He was a 90 cost. He didn't.
No. No. Oh, I can answer this question. Wait a minute. All the summer units, some of the worst investments ever. Older summer units. I'm sorry. The OG Summer Lilith and Summer Ketone. Those units crashed and burned very hard. I remember at the time I pulled for them in the Black Rose Lane meta and deeply regret it.
Winter units too. They continue not to get upgrades.
Yep.
Awful. Are we going to get the accelerated winter upgrades, Gumi?
Please, I hope so. They have to. Actually, wait a minute. That is a very good thing. Road to Worldwide. JP's been getting the upgrades for those units. That means we will too now, in tandem with them. So we're not going to be far behind. I hope going forward.
Hope so.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So coming up with some other questions here. Oh, good lord, we are scrolling quickly here. The next one is. Is there ever a time in Motive where their dark or light isn't meta? I would say yes. We had a lot of times the past couple months where dark and light weren't meta.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, I think that's kind of where you play the game, like, and kind of what we see like in the top 20 isn't necessarily like, I think dark has kind of continued to be written out like in the top 100.
You're right.
We've seen that in the kind of the meta reports on Motive stats too.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. The very first time we did that on Motive Stats, we looked up, and it was like Elena everywhere in top 100 guilds, and you and I scratched our heads. We were like, we had no idea that Elena was still as powerful.
Yeah, she's not very powerful for me these days.
No, I have not used Elena in quite some time, at least competitively now. But no, on the list of other questions here, oh goodness.
Oh, Vega, yeah, he's another one in the regret bucket this year.
Yeah,
and I think another dud for the Warriors of the Crystal this year.
I think I'll get more usage with Alaya and her vision card. Again, it's going to be that thing like, do you need to though? The answer is probably no. Alaya obviously does amazing with the strike teams. That I don't know if Vega changes that, but maybe he does. I haven't explored that enough. Thunder Mage brings up a good point there about this Guild War map. That he's been struggling to put together a lightning team on it, which is a very poor thing for those of you that don't know Thunder Mage. He is the king of that element, so if he can't put the team together for that, that's a tough spot to be in. I would agree, putting together a lightning team would be tough on that map. There's a lot of wide open space. I would think Skahal with the giant AoE could probably cover most of it, but I think... No, I would be surprised that Alphonse, Resnick, and him wouldn't work. If they don't work, it's either because of balance reasons, not because of map reasons.
Yeah, I mean it's a kind of a tough map because the directional pull for the hate can really screw you up. A lot of people I think are tending to go either slot 1 or slot 3 on defense. And depending on who the tank is, they can kind of just go right down the side, and if your hate is kind of slotted against them, and then your units as they get pulled over just kind of die from the AoEs as the enemies are kind of crossing the map. So
that's exactly it. Yeah, I'll have to think through lightning. That's a tough one because lightning is on its heels at the moment too with how strong the units are. They have not. Like I said, I told you a second ago, I thought they were one of the weaker elements. That right now, if you look back on who they've gotten as of late, Vega, Alphonse are the most recent ones outside of Summer Helena, and obviously she's waiting for her upgrade. Other than that, you have some very dated units. Resnick is still an OG support that I think is exceptional, but the rest of them, Lightning from 13, waiting for the 140. Esther, same thing. Renon's fine, but he's got ceilings. Yeah. This cast is very old.
As part of this crunch, we should be getting the 140s for the Final Fantasy units. Lightning is very, very good at 140 in my view. I think she got a great upgrade. I saw a lot of people using her in JP.
So she's got
Yes.
that 20 crit rate, 20 accuracy. Awesome. She needs both. Her accuracy was very bad. Her upgrade to her ability is a reduction in AP costs, from what I can tell. And I think that's it, but that's a pretty sizable one, going from 32 to 26. So yeah, I could see her having a case. I would just need to re-examine the defense pen on her. It's been some time.
She
Um,
gets the MA2 as well.
oh, does she? The MA2 is okay. Yeah, decreased AP consumption, 50 react block. Right, that's sizable, and the 15 crit damage. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
upgrade for her. All those units, even Snow, his we talked about his looks great.
Yeah, the crit and crit damage is huge for the follow-up because it really enhances the damage that those can do.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. We've been talking about this. I've been looking at the Bart's follow-up damage very much in depth. I think it's such a cool concept to explore. And yeah, being able to tap into the critical side of things is a massive, massive, massive part of the follow-up damage. Greatly increases the modifier potential of that ability and will do some significant more damage. So I think that's a really interesting thing for her.
Oh, Kamasuke said that's okay. That's Crazy Horse. Okay, what's up, man? Glad you could make it in. Chris Metz said we needed another tank that played well with what we had.
Oh, we can talk about Elian's question here. Where do you think the game will be next year? Probably not a bad question. I have a prediction for where it is.
So my prediction is the new meta is going to be those aura abilities, and that all the units, all the marquee units are going to have those, and they're going to cycle through different effects. Maybe we'll see a magic mitigation version. Maybe we'll see some support units that have like some healing power upgrades, or that get passed around, or attack and magic power upgrades that get passed around, stuff like that. Which is kind of these sort of map wide effects or abilities is something that we've taught that I've thought about and have wanted to come in the game. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. No, same. I think the game will probably end up being a little more rinse and repeat, but I think it's going to be more like FFBE at the moment, where you just have the consistent content. You'll have some people that want to try hard in different intervals for it, but I do think most people are probably going to relax their expectations of what they're trying to get out of the game, maybe go a little more with the flow, because we're not going to be able to hoard and plan and go through these giant meta shifts anymore. We're going to be a little more in the seat of our pants in terms of what we pull and what we can build. So it'll honestly probably be a good thing, to be honest. It might be a healthy change where you're just enjoying the game for what it is and just kind of taking it day by day.
Be good for my wallet if I can take a step back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another couple question here. What do we think about Sildra as an Esper? I love Sildra. To me, I think Odin is still superior to Sildra, but I think Sildra is an excellent second Esper to go with it. For physical damage dealers, there's not a ton of accuracy-oriented Espers. The fact that you can have two of them on the same team and you can switch them around because they have different agility values and whatnot, I think it's a really valuable Swiss Army knife in conjunction with it. On its own, probably some better options. Like I said, I think Odin's better just on its own, but love the Esper. Love the idea what they did with it.
I think that it helps you cover a couple of the higher picked rate teams that are going out right now. You get the 18% potential earth resistance, and then you get the 22% accuracy. So theoretically, you have a unit that can hedge against earth and fire now. So
Yep.
I think that's pretty nice for that.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point with the Earth Res. I keep forgetting, but that is a very underrated aspect of it, where they do release these espers to kind of metatune some things, and you start seeing, how do you make Bradley pick rates go down? That's one of the ways that you do it. If you have people using Sildra, that's going to slowly go away. You get characters that get more AoE res in their upgrades. That's a big part of countering him because he's just kind of a calculated rend bot. He just spams that ability over and over. So you can stack AoE res. Obviously, he still gets the turn advantage on you because the CT up, but it's not nearly the same destructiveness that it is otherwise.
Yeah, the difference now, like between the first maybe month or two that he was out, and the damage that you were seeing put out with those abilities compared to what you see now that people have wised up and have been stacking the AoE res, have been stacking the earth res. He's still great, so don't get me wrong, but his damage has definitely been going down.
Yeah, definitely. We'll keep going on listing for questions here. North of Main Street does have a good one here. Was Hio worth investing in? I'll be honest, I haven't really used him yet. So my answer is probably no, but I actually think the answer is yes. I think Hio is a very good unit to invest in. I just haven't needed him, quite honestly, quite yet. How about you?
I've used him very little. He, I mean, I said in my video he was like a 90 cost unit.
Yep.
Um, I still think that's true. If he had just had some defense pen innately without having to rely on the buff, I think that moves him up. I do plan to test him against this meta dark team though, like I said earlier, with Rain, with Hio, go for like that huge area resist and kind of shut down what Dark likes to do. I think there's some potential there, but obviously it's more fully realized, I think, once Shawls and her vision card come out. But I still think you can do something with it now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, no, I just think it's the kind of thing he hasn't just needed his usage. I think he's going to get better as the game goes on. I could see things they did with him that will scale well. I do think it's kind of dark effort oriented too, where that vision card is the defense pen on it also. That you talk about his buff and that. There's a couple of creative ways you can get it otherwise, but I'm looking more forward to the great sword synergies too, where giving him that 15% agility card that's unique to him seems like a great main slot card. And when you have that in the main slot with a greatsword team, with like Rain is a great candidate to go with that. But obviously, there's a lot of other potential greatsword users. It gives him that accuracy which he needs as well. So I think there's a future team they're building toward as a permapool fire unit. I think he's really good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was worth me investing in him, but most people it probably is.
Yeah.
A couple other questions here. Alesh, just I'm shouting out this comment because it's a good one. I don't regret anything I've pulled, to be honest, because it's fun to have units regardless of viability. I'll level them there. If you're having fun with your units, it's all that matters, quite honestly.
I agree. I mean, that's why I've always been kind of a collector in this game. I've pulled for all the units, and it's kind of been part of the bummer that it's been getting even more expensive, even more expensive than it has been, which has been very expensive over the last few years.
Yep.
Not what I expected as the game is kind of heading towards its twilight.
No, I agree. I agree. Um, Chris Betts here asks, any of the old summer units worth an antler in your opinion? Helena and Elsie seem great. I would agree with Elsie. She's always been a little bit ahead of the curve. Helena is low key a sneaky good one too, for reasons that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know they're there. While I look it up, what about you? You think any of those summer units worth investing in?
Summer Elsie, I think, could be pretty cool with Glassy because she has that really nice title calling. I think it's called her AOE buff that gives a bunch of unit resistance and water attack to the team. So you know that kind of fits into what Glassy's trying to do: stack the area resist, stack the unit resist, and you have a really kind of lights out anti-physical team there because that's really what Glassy likes to do. Just hope not to see Skahal or Ranan.
Right? And I thought of why. Yes, the Summer Helena buff is exceptionally good. The big difference there, level with me here for a second, guys. It's a physical barrier of 50% for 3 times itself. Anyone that watches me or listens to me knows how much I've been kind of poo-pooing on barriers lately. The reason why this is a great buff, it's her giant AoE buff. She will not repeat it because of that. By applying the barrier, she'll move to a teammate, use it once, and then move and use TMR or the courage ability, whatever it is. That is a great AI change. Because right now, she's one of those units that's going to run in circles, recasting that buff whoever comes into range. Big potential downside that I like that a lot. I don't know about the stats, if shit's enough for her to keep pace with people, but that's a really good character buff.
I don't think that she got any sort of penetration upgrades though, right?
No, that's always been her big downfall. What they made the
Yeah.
glove specifically to make up for it, and it's very lackluster. But the dark remove vision card again, that's one of those things where I feel like they're really pushing those external vision cards to make up for those deficiencies. That dark remove vision card, I'm pretty sure, is 20 spirit pen on the
Yeah.
vision card. So talk about that with the glove. If you have who knows, spirit and perils outside of that, yeah.
Well, that's what I was about to say is that it really limits you in terms of team building where now she has to have that card on or her damage is lackluster. And as we kind of go as we're kind of going into this more job meta, you know, what other teams can you splash her into? Well, maybe now she can't wear that card, or maybe she can't wear it main slot.
Right.
So units like that, I think, as we're kind of transitioning, or at least looking at other ways to use the character, being limited like that, I don't like it, and I probably wouldn't invest in it if I was limited on Viz.
No, same. For antlers, I probably wouldn't spend any on the summer units quite yet. I think we have other units coming out in the future that have a higher priority for them, and that's obviously talking about units that we don't know about yet either. As we catch up with the JP timeline, there's going to be new units every other week now, so you might need those antlers for the next top meta unit that comes out that you really want. If Summer Glassy is any indication of what might be coming in the future.
Yeah, I mean they're really trying to get all their ducks in a row, and we're gonna have like a simultaneous sort of 4-year celebration with the JP side, where we're gonna be seeing those units that JP gets for that 4-year anniversary within weeks or maybe at max a month. You know, if we kind of go by what they're telling us. Any thoughts on what that 4-year anniversary is going to bring?
Probably nothing. I mean, it's going to bring a new collaboration. We can always say that much. I hope it's Final Fantasy VIII after all this time. I know a lot of people on the global side have been clamoring for that. In terms of new mechanics, like obviously they did Trust Stones for the second anniversary. Third anniversary here was the Dreams and the Reincarnation system. I would think fourth might have to be a something weapon related, because I know a lot of games are doing that right now too. When you look at games like Genshin Impact, I just told us playing that Genshin, Nikkei, Ever Crisis, you're investing in weapons and manipulating your weapon stats. Octopath Traveler, big on that too. The soul weapons and fortune weapons that just came out recently. That I would guess fourth anniversary is probably some kind of equipment thing, where in addition to trust stones, you probably have some like add some certain stats to weapons or invest in the weapons and power them up over time. I would tend to think that's the next step. How about you?
My hope is that they reel in the carnation system a bit and make it more accessible and cheaper, so that everybody can start getting in there and start playing around with it more freely. Just having it not cost as much, because I think that the rest of the stuff costs enough as it is, and as far as I'm concerned. And I think the trends that we see in the numbers and in terms of what the player base since the third anniversary on both sides of the game, I think you can point specifically at that. In addition, you know, just to the 100 costs, you know, every week.
Yeah. No, it's
So,
true. It's true.
One of them has got to go. If they're going to keep all these expensive units, you gotta you know, drop something else, and
Right.
hopefully it's that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I would think it'd be so too, because most games, and we saw this, there's that initial bottleneck for things, and then as time goes on, they just become more, you know, widely spread out. Trust stones are no longer a massive hurdle to acquire like they were initially. I'd imagine reincarnation might follow suit there, where maybe they just give away the awakening materials more freely, or maybe it's the scrolls. Who knows what? But the bottom line is, I agree, it's probably going to be more accessible.
All the old stuff, to be honest, because I know this isn't a problem for you and me and maybe other day players, but constantly I'm seeing people saying I don't have enough rainbow orbs, and I'm like, why? Like, what, Gumi? Like, why are these still so limited? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
why is it still so hard for people to level up their units to 99 because they don't, or their vision cards because they don't have a freaking rainbow orb?
Can I piss everyone in chat off for a second? I'm sure you're probably close to me. I have 1,000 rainbow orbs. I literally have more than 1,000. Like, I feel so bad for people that don't have them. I don't know how you don't have rainbow. I literally have more than 1,000. I don't even know how.
I mean, same. I mean, because we're pulling dupes all the time, and you get the
Yeah.
But then, like, I mean, I'm sure some of those people probably don't farm their monthly in the selection quests and do that stuff too, so that's part of it. But they should just be more common. I mean, it shouldn't be a concern at this point for those early gating materials. That they should be more proliferant.
Honestly, they should. I would think at some point you have to just get rid of them. Quite honestly, I think FFB did that at one point where they just said like we're getting rid of all these awakening materials. Where sure you're going to require a couple still, like the awakening and fragments of thought, because they're part of reincarnation. But there's probably a handful. Even the blossoms theoretically don't need to be around anymore. Like if 140 is the bar, then you're gatekeeping people to 120. That feels weird to me. The antlers is the newest, you know, investment thing. But other than that, like you've got a bunch of Alcrysts, like the level 2 and level 3 Alcrysts. Those everyone has those in abundance. Why are they even there anymore? Like who's leveling units level 29 and stopping. You know what I mean? It's just they got
Yeah.
to do something to eliminate that, because that's one of the biggest things I would think for new players is just being overwhelmed by like awakening materials that you're like, I don't even know what these all are. Where do they go?
I do hope that they clean a lot of that stuff up at the 4th year anniversary and the relaunch. I'm assuming that they'll probably try to do some last push here for try to get players in, and hopefully they're going to put their best foot forward and present a better version of the game at that point. That's my hopium slash copium.
Definitely, definitely. We got some other questions rolling in here. This is a good one from MK. Who is the MVP of the year so far? I know I have an answer. How about you?
That's funny because we were talking or flirting with the idea of doing like half year in review on the podcast today, but
Yep.
didn't come to fruition. But maybe we'll do that at another time. For me, the MVP of the year, it's been Yuffie.
Oh, for you.
For
Yeah.
me, yeah,
Yes.
she carried me in all parts of the game for a very very long time, a good 4.5 months, where I was 6-starring every day against good competition. My defense was stumping people every single day, sometimes multiple times, even water teams. So yeah, she was my number one for this year.
I like it. So I'll answer that the same way you did, and then I'll rephrase the question too. So for me personally, my MVP, God, it's Addison Rae, MVP. Every team I put her in, she smokes everyone. It's been all kinds of content. Like, she's just been outstanding as a unit. I've yet to see her be the weakest link in any team I've put her in. I just this like last week put her up to 40 reincarnations because I'm like, it's about time. I use her all the time, and she's that good. Um,
I
yeah.
gotta call it. Vincent says I'm starting to be buzzed. I'm definitely feeling it a little bit.
Can I share a story with you guys?
I'm a lightweight these days.
Are you? I have a really funny story that it's going to be a light bulb for a lot of you watching, I think. So I'm with my girlfriend earlier, and we're getting ready after the work day ends. And I knew I podcast tonight. JB and I plan on doing it live, obviously spread out all over the place that we're doing it live. And we live in Massachusetts. We've mentioned that before. And girlfriend and I have this habit of after work. THC is legal here in Massachusetts, and one of our hobbies and habits is having a gummy after work. And don't you know, muscle memory kicked in, where every night I usually walk out there and pop a gummy with her, and I did. And 30 minutes later, at that moment, I went, "Oh my god, I have to be live in like 2 hours." So I'll level with you there. I'm a little bit on the buzz spectrum, so
Nice.
hopefully I'm holding up okay here.
Yeah, we have dispensaries all over the place here in Massachusetts. Like, I'm in the town that I live in. There's like 4 of them.
They're awesome.
So
You walk in, there's like leather couches and like forests, and everyone's super friendly. You walk in, it's like, "Welcome to Moe's," and they're like, greeting you from afar, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. So my MVP, Addison, game wise though, we'll talk about like game balance. Do you think it's the character that has been like an MVP for the game so far this year? For all, actually,
Probably Sephiroth, I would say, for most people, has probably been the most impactful.
I'd agree with that. I was gonna say Dwayne personally. I think Dwayne was very impressive and is the key driver to like the last 3 months where Dark and Peril, Courage, and Re-Raise remove brand new 20 AoE res that didn't exist before. He's been tanky enough. Like, they did a lot of good things with them that he is like absolutely like driven forward that dark meta through this so far.
Yeah, he's been solid. I would probably throw Edward into that bucket. Like, he's been lights out. Like, such a good damage dealer, so much good utility, such a strong unit for 90 cost. He like blows away like a number of 100 cost units that have been much more expensive to build than he coming in at that free get. So
Completely agreed. He's exceptional.
Hopefully everybody invested into him because he's continuing to be great, as we're kind of fully into this Earth meta now. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, going through some of these questions here now. Someone brought up Sephiroth and Bradley MVPs. I think that's straight up. Bradley's definitely in the conversation too. Sorry, just a second. Oh yeah, you're right. There's Vincent. Uh, oh, DJen's in the chat. What's up, DJen? Yes, we both live in Mass, and I had no idea you lived in New Hampshire. Yeah, I'm in the central Mass area. I think JB's like 20 minutes east of me. Not too far off. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a stone's throw. We got the New England crew here, New England streamer crew.
Yeah, we do. Sorry, looking through some of these questions still. Yeah.
MK's calling out Perrine. I like it. Perrine's been definitely one of my favorite units to use. I don't think she's necessarily like the best unit of the year, but she's a definitely like you could make a case for her. I think like she's been very, very strong.
I agree. She's probably the best water unit in my eyes still. She does everything good. She's just as tanky as most tanks when you consider 4 to 5 hits to kill her. Like that's what it takes for. Oh, I guess some tanks are more than that now. Raph and Dialdo in particular, but 4 to 5 hits is an exceptional amount of hits. She can one shot.
The only thing that I want for her is a barrier break.
Yes.
And some strike res pen.
Yeah, that barrier break. That's one of those things that I just kind of figure it's probably complemented somewhere else in the team that you put her in, where she's just not that character, and you have to rely on someone else. That's best case scenario, but yeah, that is a major downside. I talked about that with Faris. That's a major downside. Post anniversary to not have a barrier break.
That's the tough part of trying to run those two together. Is they both get shut down by the 50% barriers. They at least have like 3 hitters that can kind of shut them down, but like the Jaden or Lucia style barriers, they are much harder to get through.
Yep, totally.
Oh,
totally.
Thunder Mage is in New England as well.
Ah, popular area. I like it.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember Merlot back in the day. I used to. He lived pretty close to us too. He was like that marathon streamer guy. He
I don't remember him.
Streams. You don't remember Merlot?
No, that doesn't ring a bell at all.
He was in Visipur, I think, before you got there. He was in there for
really?
Some time.
Shame on me. Go ahead.
He was in Cetra, I think, and then I think he was in Cetra or Fate, maybe what was like one of the early top guilds, and then he was in Visipur for a little while too.
That makes sense. I was gonna say on that note of Visipur, have you heard? I mean, a lot of people have heard about this. We technically went free to play as of late, and that's a serious thing. We've had a pretty big strategic shift as of late to take the foot off the pedal, not play super hard for number one, just enjoy the game, have some fun with each other. We're still expecting to stay top 5, but we are not expecting to spend. We're gonna relax some of the wall guidelines. We want to bring a lot of people in. Actually, for those of you watching, if anyone is interested in still joining VIP, like definitely a great time to do it. Where we're like I said, taking the foot off the pedal, but still a lot to learn. And I think it's gonna be the new top 5, top 10 of the game. Howler just made it this week. Congrats on the top 10 finish with the cup ending. He made it.
Yeah, that was it came down to the wire. Like we had a couple of very hard matchups at the end, but yeah, the Azure Dragon Cup, we managed to land in the 10 spot, had a winning record, which was actually was very good too. So yeah, kudos to Howl and the guild for all their hard work. It was a fun season.
Yeah, I think you'll see more of that. I think the parity in the top 10 is going to fluctuate all the time now, because I just think about, like I said, most people are going to appreciate the game more. They're just going to run and have fun with it. I don't think the return on min-maxing is going to be the same as it used to be. There's been enough titles, number 1 titles going around now that I'm not saying it's not special, but I think most people are kind of like, whatever, it's just another one of those. But yeah, interesting stuff going on in the Guild War world at the moment.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
we'll have to see if another guild kind of steps in and tries to dominate for as long as Visipur has been able to do.
I can tell you right now that's probably not going to happen. I think we won, 300 games and lost only 6 times. It's something crazy like that. I've read that's like Patriots level dynasty. I doubt anyone will re-accomplish that, but I think Chocoboss is primed to stay number 1. I know Runic Blades is on the rise too, so there'll be a couple.
Any more questions we got here?
Someone asked about early content creators and streamers if we wish would make an appearance. So those that may have dropped off that were initial early content creators. I don't know. Do you have anyone come to mind for you?
I don't know who. I'd say Prodigy was probably my number one. Shout out to Prodigy and Hokutin. He was like the big, and I'll throw Daniel Boone in there as well. They were the two manual PvP streamers, like slash YouTubers. And that was kind of, they had a podcast for a while that was kind of more catered towards the manual side, and kind of they inspired me to kind of want to do that as well. So definitely miss those guys. Pour one out for them.
Right on. I don't know if I have a streamer or a video creator that I miss in particular. Socially, there's a couple that I miss seeing, but in a twist on that, those of you may know Meow, MEOW, not Neo, who you still see dominating the leaderboards. MeowDB, Meow Database. He's one of the original data miners, and forgive me if I smear his name here. I didn't mean to. I think he might have gotten caught for some cheating. I don't know that for certain, but MeowDB made this excellent resource. He's the guy that data mined the accuracy, dexterity, the evasion numbers, the mechanics, the damage formulas, all of that. Like literally the foundation of everything I hope to achieve. That he's his own kind of content creator, that he had his own website. That database had like articles and things you could reference. I think there's enough new mechanics in the game that he probably tapped out his ceiling on what he needed to research, and I think that's partly why he retired. But that's probably like a content creator that I miss. He had some really good stuff on the Meow DB.
He was a little bit of a manual player too. He would hang out in our server. I miss those days too, because we would all be testing stuff in there, testing the mechanics, and a lot of those kind of became the basis for some of the articles that he would write. We would all be kind of manually kind of going in and trying to figure things out with the game. So
it's so cool.
Yeah, standing on the shoulders of giants.
Seriously. Hold on a second now. That was it. And we're doing good for topics. I think we've covered everything so far. We were talking about RAF, talking about summer units. Sorry, just a second here. A couple shout outs to other streamers. Obviously, Cabbage, Prodigy. Someone's shouting out Rindell.
I remember Coffee streams, Hydrex. Those were fun.
I think we're caught up on questions. Actually, I'm intrigued. Do you what do you do for JP content creators? Do you watch any?
There's a couple that I follow. Saruto or Assault. He's like the number one like content creator over there, and he's on their official live streams as like the community liaison essentially. So I watch him, and he's also a manual player, so I kind of like watching what he does. And then he also does the coverage of like the PvE content, like the guild raids, and he kind of hosts the top guilds kind of come on and they talk about the strategies and stuff. So yeah, aside from that, I watch some videos, but I don't necessarily follow anybody specifically.
No, same. I'm super appreciative of the JP work that they do. Obviously, like they're our first line of everything, gameplay and impressions and that. I do think that most of them tend to be a little too high level for what I look for in my characters. Like I think we do more character reviews and actually do more analyses, and not just like you and me, but Mysidia's gone on that bandwagon, done a great job with like bringing in some like data points. And I feel like most content creators in JPAC don't give me that next level like analysis. They'll say like, oh, so and so has AoE res, and that's good, and they have a barrier, and that's it's very digestible. I don't know how to say it. It's not a bad thing.
I don't see anybody breaking down the stats like we do.
No. They'll do some arena show. Right, that's one of my least favorite things, and I'm kind of vocal against this. I'll see a lot of arena showcases, and they'll bring out a team, and they'll like talk about the results, and in my head I'm just kind of like, there's no context to these results. Like it's arena, and like you're not showing me the enemy team build, and are they using trust stones correctly? And there's like so many things that like you can't draw conclusions properly. And I constantly have to like, I had someone just bring up the other day. This is a really good example. They posted a video of the Bart's follow-up attack doing like 7,500 damage against a Sephiroth. And I looked at him like, but that team is not a feasible team. He's got like Titan in the sub-vision card. He's playing in like the top 2000s. He's got all this like weird setup. Like it's not a feasible build. So why are you showing us this? Like it's just like misleading information.
Yeah, I definitely can see that too. I mean, it's not easy to break down because you have to obviously build up a whole database of the stats and kind of, as if you're trying to do any kind of meaningful analysis on it. Something I've spent way too much time doing over the years. I'm
Yeah,
sure you can feel the same.
definitely, definitely so. Yeah, I love having that worksheet though. That workbook, I've attempted to make that public. I have no reason not to. I just abhor, I hate the online spreadsheet softwares. I think they're just awful, and the ribbon is different, and the formulas don't always work the same as the desktop version. And I just can't maintain that workbook online as much as it kills me to not have it like available to everyone. No.
Rin
So
asks, which channel was I talking about? Um, Here, I
I think it was
can shoot a link.
Asarudo. I think it was that channel.
Yeah,
Yep.
Asterudo.
Someone had a question about job-based vision cards in terms of what's our take on them. Went for them at first. Wonder if they're meant for more newer players to build teams till they go mono. I still like job-based vision cards. They're still early though. I think they did a poor job rolling out which ones they did first. Everyone at this point knows that AoE res and unit res and agility are musts as like a staple. So until those vision job-based vision cards get those, all other cards are just kind of irrelevant until that point. So it's good to accumulate them because eventually you're going to use them. But very underwhelmed because you can't use those rainbow teams while you're lacking those crucial elements. We're a lot better now, though. We have a lot more access to it.
I think like if you're just trying to dabble, like if you're not somebody that can pull for every single vision card, but you do maybe want to pick up some cards, get the agility cards, get the area resist, unit resist, and especially get the ones that cover two of those three effects. Those are the huge job enablers.
Yeah,
Like the Melania card that we're seeing coming, especially is a good one. I think
yeah.
it has unit resist and agility, right?
Agility, it's fantastic. Yeah, and it's a
Yeah.
high. It's a lot. I think it's 24 unit res. It's like busted. Something very
So that
large.
that was like the Full Metal Alchemist card that really took the fist teams into the next level.
Yep.
If you have that card, you can build around it. The other cards obviously are great too because they give you multiple effects like in the sub slots. But I mean, it's not that much of a drop off if you throw in Ifrit there instead of, or throw in Titan, instead of some of those other cards. Um, Obviously, it's better if you have the full six, job cards. But I think you can get by as long as you have the main one.
It's true. Well, we talked about this earlier that most characters are becoming more and more self sufficient. I think once people get past that old school thinking of mono element and having to have like all of that perfect element together, and you start realizing that some characters, like Bradley, like Bart's, like Addison, there's a bunch of characters that on their own do really well. And all you need is just a couple vision cards, mostly the AoE and unit res and agility. Other than that, they're self sufficient enough that I do like that the game is pushing that direction. I think job-based vision cards are going to do a good job long term.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've started playing around with too, where because the cards now have so many effects on them, you can afford maybe to have one unit in there that just has very selfish cards that are just enabling them,
Right.
but maybe the other two units, they have a couple cards that are just for them, and then you can play like that. And like you said, they're self-sufficient enough with their self buffs and the other things that they're bringing that they could perform at a high level and maybe kind of help you counter certain things that you're trying to get over in the metas.
Yeah. And I've said this time and time again too. The vision cards are obviously really important for min-maxing the top end thing. I think most people severely underrate the chessboard though, and the X's and O's and the movement and the spacing and the range. That stuff is what wins you the fights. It's not the 25 slash res on your card. It's not the 10 human killer. That's not winning you fights. It's your movement and your chessboard analytics. The vision cards just kind of supplement that once you get the handle on it. And I think most people have a learning curve to get there. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
Uh,
getting the one-on-one matchups that you can win on the slots so that you can then create a 3v2 is you
yeah,
gotta learn how to do that.
exactly. So there's a couple other good questions here. Sushi would have brought up one with us being so deep in analyzing numbers and mechanics. Is Wotive the only game deep enough to satisfy me? Are there other mobile games that can compete? My answer is yes, right off the bat. I feel like most games that use numbers have enough that you could dive your teeth into. I don't know your mobile experience outside of that, but I know like Octopath, there's a ton of number crunching theoretically. Nikkei has an insane amount of potential number crunching. There's a lot there, yeah, for sure.
I think what brings Wotive like up another level though is that it's also such uh, a vibrant PvP experience, whereas a lot of those games you mentioned are almost purely PvE perspective.
Yeah, correct.
Where yeah, you can dive in and you can min max your damage and maybe you can beat something a couple turns quicker than somebody else in some PvE kind of ladder scenario. But when you're playing against other humans that are also very much trying to beat you, it adds another level of competitive nature and fun to it.
I agree completely. Yeah, yeah. That's why I only do Motive. I don't really care to do other games. I've considered it. I might someday, but not anytime soon. So, MK brought up a question here. What guest would we like to have on the Leonis support, and what would be the topic? How about you?
We actually talked about this week, so why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, let me credit my girlfriend for this suggestion. She saw that I released the new video on Justin, and I did a video about Justin's response on the Discord about him being a community manager and what his role entails. And she was like, "Wait a minute, Justin's had you on for Justin and Friends. Why don't you have him on the Leonis support?" And I was like, "It's a great idea." So we haven't reached out to him yet, but if we're talking about what guests would we like to have on the Leonis support, I would love to bring Justin in. And again, I don't know how transparent he can be, because obviously there's some PR things that he can't give away, and he's got to maintain a certain image as a community manager. So I don't, we would curate the questions. But I'd love to know a little bit about some of like the inner workings of Square and how that team operates and how do they communicate, what time zone differences and difficulties are there, and even just being a community manager, if he can tell us about the job and the role, or even about himself personally. Now, again, I know he can probably limit what he can divulge about himself personal information wise, but I think there's like a cool secret world there that I'd love to know more about with him. Yeah,
I think so too. I don't know. I feel like so badly when I see all these threads on Reddit or people in Discord just like being like a real kind of dick, for excuse my French. And it's I get it. I get where it's coming from. There's reason to be frustrated. I'm with you guys, but there's a better way to go about it than, trying to just, I don't know. It is what it is.
it is.
He's handcuffs. I blame Gumi more for that situation, or Square, because they're obviously limiting what he can and can't say to the community. I think it's a bad approach. I think that there should be I think he should be able to, if he is going to be called a community manager, he should be able to say and do a little bit more than he actually can.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah, that was my big thing, is that when he gave his response, I thought the word manager threw off most people, where when you think about that term, and my analogy was a restaurant, if you go to a restaurant and you don't like something, you ask for the manager. So like here we are playing the game and we're not happy, so people are asking for the community manager. But he obviously doesn't have the same responsibilities to just say or do whatever he wants, and so he just takes the brunt of it. That's obviously tough.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you nailed it in that video. He's a liaison. He tries to get a pulse of the community, see what's going on, and he feeds that up the chain, and that's really what he's here to do.
Yep. Good deal. Also welcoming Massidia. Made it a little bit later. I know he had some time commitments before hopping in, so everyone, a warm welcome to Massidia too. He asks who is our favorite Canadian Wotive content creator, and
yeah,
I don't know. It's a tough decision.
I don't know if I have one.
I don't know if I have one either.
Obviously, Massidia is the best.
Yes, no doubt. I'm still super envious of Massidia, and he can say what I want to say, but he does it in 9 minutes, and I do it in 22 minutes, and it pisses me off.
he should have said, who is your favorite Canadian / wrestling coach / Gundam building content creator? Then I think we maybe could have.
Oh, he would have been the first.
Then yeah.
He would have been the first one that came to mind. Yeah, wouldn't even think twice about that one.
Yep.
That's awesome. Let's see what else we have here. Hiroki on the Leonis support. There'd be quite the language barrier there, but that would be a very interesting one.
Hey guys, take a look.
Right? I don't think we'd learn anything important.
It'd be tough.
Yeah.
The language barrier. Hiroki seems like a cool dude, though. I did kind of want to meet that fan meet. Hopefully they'll do another one in the future.
Yeah, Orange J spoke very highly of Hiroki and as a very cool guy, and I have no doubt that's true for enemies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Uh, no, sorry, reading this. No, this is good. All right, we're cruising along here. Um, question: Will the Patriots make the playoffs in the next 3 years? Woodstock, they're making it this year. Book it. It's
I don't
happening.
know if I'm that optimistic. I don't know.
I'm that optimistic. I think Bill O'Brien gets them another 3 to 4 wins. That's enough to make a playoff berth.
You think Mac Jones is getting us there?
I
I don't
do.
know.
I do.
Okay.
Mac Jones was a 10-win quarterback 2 years ago. Like, it's all I need to know. Josh McDaniels did his thing, and I don't know what his thing was, but he did it. And Mac regressed, obviously, because there wasn't a real offense. Bob's coming back in here now, I think 3 years in. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but playoffs? Absolutely. The only thing that would keep us out of the playoffs is depending on how good the Jets are with Aaron Rodgers, which, spoiler, I don't think they're going to be good. They could be a spoiler team down the line. But the Bills are obviously amazing. Dolphins are great. We'll see how we play with them, but that's really it.
Yeah, it's definitely a tougher division than it used to be.
Yeah. Basidia question. I don't know if it's been asked yet. How do you guys feel about Guild Battle being maybe 3 to 4 times per week instead of every day? I would love that. Love that. That's a major source of burnout at the top end of the game. Is the 7 days a week, never a break. If you limited that to say like, I don't know, weekdays or maybe even weekends, knowing the work week is typically Monday through Friday, yeah, that's a real struggle to keep up with.
I think that would be interesting. Like if you had I've been kind of a proponent of this for a long time. Just like you said, the burnout is it's really mundane. Like over and over again, the same thing. It would be kind of cool, like if maybe you had like a 2-day window where you knew your opponent, you knew, okay, and then you could still continue to adjust lineups and kind of test things, and then you finally go live, and then you have your and there's a lot of head games that could go on there, like knowing obviously who you're going up against, what they've historically run, and then you could subvert expectations there and things like that. So
What's the PvP that goes on right now? Is it Guild Wars Supremacy? One of them does it, where they give you the schedule ahead of time. I think it's Guild
yeah,
Wars Supremacy, and yeah, that's really interesting, where you know who you're fighting ahead of time, and you have this like longer term strategic thing. I actually like that a lot because that would be a great way for guilds that are in. How can I say this? One of the competitive advantages of being in the top 10 is that there's no one above you. So when the game match makes you, you know you're getting somewhere below you bottom 10. But if you're in that guild rank of like 20, your range of teams to play against is from 10 to 30. That's a lot of teams to game plan for. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, the best wall wins. Doesn't You're not going to game plan for 20 guilds. It's not going to happen. But it would be kind of nice to know your schedule ahead of time to help kind of curate that decision process.
I think that it would allow it would allow more maybe upsets potential. If maybe you have somebody asleep at the wheel and somebody lower could put in the work and eke out a win.
Yeah.
It would allow for that for certain.
Yeah.
Because I mean I know that from experience in limiteds and in supremacy where we've been the one who's done the upsetting. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Another question here from Vintage Blade. Do you guys think they'll ever add a unit that has some kind of transformation in game, i.e., a curry that transforms into its goo form or even revives into it? Absolutely, 10,000%. Yes, I think you could, and I think you will.
I've wondered why they haven't done more with like skins or costumes or alternate outfits. Like they already have the tech in there for weapons. Like it seems like that was kind of maybe a revenue stream they could have dived into, but that's something that I have thought about for 4th year anniversary with. I personally want it and hope it to be tactics. I think it's time for it to be back with 4th. I think those units need their upgrades. The community wants and needs tactics to be here and be more of a regular part of the game. And I would love to see Ramza be able to go into his 2nd act or 3rd act outfit. Same thing with Delita. So
It's funny you bring that up. I almost went a different direction there with that. I think all of the Zodiac Stone wielders. Everyone talks about Wegriff as a very popular fan favorite to bring in. You go to Wegriff, and then he goes into his Belias mode where he activates the Zodiac Stone. And I considered some of those Zodiac Braves, in terms of transformations. But you're right. Even just those power ups. I know Final Fantasy Brave Exvius kind of does, where you can go into different forms depending upon the buff that you select first. I would think that you could do something similar here too, where you have a buff that you either like, I don't know, you hit a toggle, and if the toggle's on, it does this, but if the toggle's off, it does that. And you just have a different transformation. Or maybe it's a passive ability. They've already kind of done it. If you have a passive on, it'll like affect the abilities down below. I have no doubt you could do a transformation. I don't know if there'd be like a physical animation or not, but no reason why they couldn't do it.
They could do they could take that same idea with Final Fantasy IX that you brought up earlier. Obviously, a big part of that is like the trance shifts that they have for Zidane and Vivi and Aiko and all these characters. That could be that's maybe something that they do, the kind of the trance mode.
Yeah.
And then maybe that could be a way to make Terra better. Could get Trance Terra into the game.
I would love it. Right, great candidate to do that with. Yeah. All right, one second. We got a couple good ones here. Oh, Woodstock's got a great question. You and I need to bring some visibility to this. What would it take to revive free match? Weekly rewards, higher rewards? I don't know, Jibby, what are you thinking for free match?
So I made a video on this about a year ago with some suggestions for Gumi. And part of the original problem with free match is the and I think this is also actually an issue with class match, is the streak system in terms of like the escalating points for winning streaks. And the fact that they have that in free match and it's tied into the rewards has been a problem for it, because it's caused certain players to really try to min-max like certain cheese strategies so that they could get a couple hundred medals per day so they could get their Hermes sandals or plat armor quicker.
Yep.
And it's essentially killed the mode because it's took out a lot of the fun, because some of those players, you just walk into the match and you lose automatically. There was a big problem with Cheeseblade a couple years ago where this drove out a lot of the daily players from that mode. So my solution for that is add a monthly count mission that you have to play 50 missions a month, and then you get a bunch of nice rewards, including a lot of medals. Maybe you get 10,000, 20,000, 30, whatever. And then, it takes away the streak mechanic altogether for your medals. It's purely within these daily missions and weekly missions, just like you do with Arena. I think that's perfect. Doesn't mean obviously you get a little bit more medals if streaks and, your multipliers go up, but the core of your medals is coming, just from participating in it. So
I completely agree. The streak system is very tough. I think it's very frustrating for anyone trying to dabble in it, that if you just go into a match and you lose 2 or 3 in a row, at that point you're like, what am I doing with my time for just, 10 medals per loss?
Yeah.
You're like, what am I even doing with my time? So you just don't do it anymore. So that needs to go away, or at least change the minimum that you receive from a loss. I like your reward system though. For me, I also think you need to step back and ask, like, what's the intent of free match? At what point it really was for manual play? And if that's the case, they need to do something completely different than now, because I don't think there's anything enticing about manual play for the average player that engages in it. That auto option is just too easy for most people to be comfortable with. So I think, you got to decide that. Do you want it manual or do you want it auto? And then you can reshape the rewards. Because right now, the biggest change for me that I need to take to revive this is the fact that queue times are anywhere from like 30 seconds to never. There's often times in the day where I'll sit there for 5 to 7 minutes and I won't get matched to anybody. And that's awful. That literally cannot happen. Why they don't have a system in the game that they just take like a cached team, like CACHE, like Arena. They have like a snapshot team. Why they don't have a history of like Arena teams that have been, not Arena, free match teams that have been used that day. And if you go 30 seconds without a live matchup, they just give you one of these random teams. That has to happen. It's awful feeling just sitting there spooling and then timing out.
And I think part of the reason that players don't engage in it anymore is because, like you said, you're getting 10 medals a match. You need 600,000 or something crazy to get a +6 piece of gear. and it's unobtainable for the average player. So they they need to get more medals for everyone. Maybe add new gear in there so that there's something new to work towards and something interesting, to get. And I think it would be, very easy to fix.
Agreed. Agreed. Elbar has a quick question. This is actually a really good question. Is Raph still worth pulling for if you don't have Sephiroth? My answer is yes, personally. She's that good for a variety of teams. She's that good for Dark. Sephiroth is arguably one of the best Dark units. There's a bunch of other really competitive Tarkin top units. Dark Fina, Halloween Lucia, Leela the Bold, Ruin Stern, all are very viable characters still that can go well with Raph. Absolutely still worth pulling for if you don't have Sephiroth.
Yeah, I mean, plus she is going to be the leader of the Mace group. So if you have a bunch of units that you like, that like a Sodali or like a Queen Macherie, she can fit in very nicely and front that team too.
Yep. Yep.
If you have the cards.
Right, of course. Yeah, the cards are important because you need some certain slash res pen cards and some dark cards. Yeah, and the Mace cards are mostly perma pool now, but yeah. Logi C asked a question that I think we've answered in some varieties, but maybe not specifically. But it's tactics, so who doesn't want to talk about this? Which characters personally would we want as units on the next tactics collab? I think I remember some of your answers. What comes to mind for you though for units and tactics for the next collab?
There's so many good ones. I mean, I think Wegrif is on there. Like Seraph Ultima has got to be on there. I mean, for like bringing in some good villains, right?
Right.
For the other side, I've always liked Milia Duel. I think she would be perfect in this game. And then Orlando's son, Oran. Yeah, would be kind of cool too. Maybe a cool time mage kind of type kit. I don't know. How about you?
No, I agree. Wegrif is one of my favorite tactics. I'm sorry, one of my favorite characters of all time for everything. So he's top of list. But I agree, Ultima would be an excellent one when you include another villain in there. Most of these games that we have so far for collabs eventually get a villain. I can't see why you wouldn't. I do like the concept of still leaning into some of the more main cast still. Like if you think of Ophelia, if you wanted to bring in a new kind of support unit, I think you could go that route as well. Yeah, the cast is so diverse. I'm trying to think. I think it's just the ones that I've always thought about. There's probably more. I do like Oran Durai too, because again, he's got that cool, like astrology related job. But no, I think that's basically it. I would like to see them bring in some other classes here. I still think that like a true dancer class would be a fun one from a buff perspective. There's a couple others here, like the chemist. We've talked about that as a job class before, and like having items and finally doing something useful with your items and being able to throw them.
I would love to be able to throw those around. That'd be fun.
I think there's something to be done there. But yeah, that's generally the answers, I think. All right, let's see. And we are at nearly 11 o'clock here, so I don't think we had a cutoff time, quite honestly, but we'll probably start to wind things down here relatively soon. See how the questions go.
I'm good to go for a little bit longer.
Yeah, me too.
Can you scroll up just a little bit? I saw one question about manual that I want to get to. Maybe a little bit. That one. As a manual player, do you think the game needs more environmental exploding barrels? Absolutely. This is like one... and this is for all modes of the game.
Yeah.
This was like some promise that they seem to want to do very early on, like first story missions. You knock over a tree and it kills a bunch of guys. Why don't we have that like anywhere in the game? It's used very sparingly in the story. Like maybe you walk on some buttons here on some maps, but it's like it's very much whatever. Like they could. I don't know. I don't know why they haven't dived into that for any meaningful kind of interactivity with the map.
Yeah,
but I would love to see it.
Yeah, even as a non-manual player, I love the map interactivity. I think it's a great idea. Where you step on a switch, something changes. Who knows what? And maybe it's a map effect for an area. Whatever it is, the point is you get very creative with it. And the only downside, I would think, and maybe this is more for auto than manual, is that once you start introducing too much randomness into the matches, that doesn't feel very good after a while, where you feel like your matches are just kind of like a coin flip, no matter how much theory crafting you do. So for manual, that seems actually like a prime thing to utilize. I can see why in the auto, though, they might stay away from it, though.
I
But
think that's probably the reason why is that the game took off much more as an auto-centric game, so they kind of just have more or less scrapped
yeah,
that idea. It probably takes more time to develop it as well. But if they're looking for a way to infuse some challenge or maybe some fun into some of the PvE modes that really are meant for manual play, like the reliquies, I know that people do create auto lineups for that, but it's really designed to be played manual and you optimally to get the most out of it. But they could certainly infuse some of that stuff into it, I think.
yeah, yep. Looking at a couple of the questions, a couple people agree with us here on the rewards options that they could do. Somebody had a question here about making UR Shadow Links a viable character. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I think, when we were considering 140 upgrades for her. I know the big one for me was upgrading her giant AoE ability. That one's kind of useless at the moment for how much AP it costs. I think we said Pierce Res Pen might be another good one, considering that it's kind of a niche, if not rare, stat for Pierce units to have. Giving her that competitive advantage is a good one. I don't think she's that far off, though, quite honestly. I think she's got a lot of good stuff that have aged well with the third anniversary.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean she fits in nicely with the area resist DPS classes. Yeah, so I mean I don't think it will take a lot, just a little bit more utility. I think some of her skills are just very kind of bare bones. So
yeah. Someone asked a question here. What brand new non-square collab would we want the most? That's a tough one because non-square. I mean, some of these are pipe dreams; they would never happen. But some of them, like Persona, maybe they do. Do you have a? I mean, you gonna say Baldur's Gate here for your collab that you want to see, or
I
what comes?
mean I would pull out the wallet for that one. Go all in with the 20-sided die and the
Right?
Dungeons and Dragons aesthetic. Yeah, I'm all about it. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm not like the biggest like anime like person, like so I don't know a ton of other properties that I would be super into. Like all the anime that I love is like from when I was younger, like Akira and like some of the stuff from like the early 90s. It was pretty cool, but I don't have a great one. How about you?
No, I don't either. I would try to stay in the video game realm as opposed to the anime realm, just because video games it's just more of a natural crossover. And if I had to pick, this might be biased, maybe it is, maybe not. But since we do have such a tight knit community around tactics and some of the old school numbered JRPGs, like they came out with, would have came out with like one before anything for collabs basically, and then four, and like a lot of the old school titles. I would like to see some of the old school JRPG crossovers where there is like a healthy amount of JRPGs from the 90s and 2000s that you could cross over between anything in the Tales series to Legend of Dragoon to we've said like me personally like Suikoden and Wild Arms are like two of my all-time favorite JRPGs, Xenosaga and a bunch of those. I think like getting that like 90s like nostalgia
Yeah,
niche would be really cool when to tap into.
Breath of Fire is another
Breath of
great one.
Fire, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, that was not Square Collab. Let's see. Oops, sorry, scroll down a little too much here. Um, oh, that's interesting. Now that we have a good UR tank for every element, what is the biggest hole in any one element other than water espers? I would think it's got to be support, just as my gut answer, because damage dealers are everywhere. But I know support's a little more sparse. Um, I
Yeah,
would
Earth doesn't have a UR support yet.
fire mid move doesn't count. I'm sorry. I know.
Yeah, they have Shells coming in as a pretty decent support.
Yeah.
Um, not like 100 cost or 90 cost level though. I mean, but
Sorry, guys. I don't think there really are any holes in the elements. I think that at this point, yeah.
because we have we have like kind of a like an all around or physical slash magical. We have a couple of tanks now for every element, right?
Yep.
Fire's got Rain and Mont. We got Celis and Glassy for water. We got Charlotte and Alphonse, Dialdo and
Miraga.
Moraga. So I mean,
Yeah, they're pretty well rounded at this point. If anything, it'd be vision card related, and just mixing and matching some of the, like we said, AOE, unit, and agility. That those might be some of the holes where certain elements, their cards are just better than other elements. The wind card is notoriously the best mono element card in that regard because it's got both the AOE res and the luck on. I'm sorry, the AOE res and the agility on the same card. That if you look at some of the other ones, like um, I mean, I guess the Sorrow card is good for fire, but there's some other cards that could use an upgrade there in terms of how they. Earth is one of them. They don't have a 15% agility card other than the Halloween one, but their unit res card with Elphicaris is the 8% agility. Like I feel like if you're not using a Pierce unit, Elphicaris is a tough unit res card to slot in there for Earth. It's not topping. You get
well, it's
stats.
the same argument with Dark Siren because that's another 15% agility that Earth could potentially bring in. So
Yep.
I know I've already seen players saying that they would probably use that as a secondary in a mono Earth team. But
Absolutely.
that's why I think that this next. I feel like there's a lot of parity now, or at least competitive teams that can be run for every element that we have to go into a new phase now, and it is this aura phase where it's just something completely new that we don't have on it, that we can't have on other units that they're going to start bringing in just to have a reason to pull them.
Yep, I agree. I consider it being the new phase of power creep because those are some significant buffs that they add. Like Celeste's heal back to teammates is a significant amount of healing. The 40% attack and magic and the reduced counter chance for free. That's a fair amount of stats to add on to them. Obviously, Glassy, that 40% non-breakable physical damage down is insane when you consider just that there's no counterplay other than killing her, which is good counterplay. But yeah, those are very strong.
I hope that they don't immediately just come out with a unit that is able to dispel it. I hope that we kind of go through and maybe every element kind of gets some kind of aura before we get to a phase where we're just starting to like kind of cancel the old units right away. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the game balances have to get creative, where if you're going to get teams that are now more grouping because those aura buffs are that powerful, they're going to have to do something, or we're going to have to analyze characters based off of their AoE abilities and who has the strongest ones. Because if you're going to do very minimal damage because there's not a lot of AoE damage, because there's so much AoE res, you're going to have to do something really cool on the rest of that AoE ability to make up for that and compensate for the overall decreased damage, if you will. So there's probably somebody said, you brought up the great example of Lila the Bold, that giant diamond dispel. That's big. If you have a group of people that are going to group together because the aura buff is that strong, having a giant diamond dispel is a fantastic counterplay piece to it. And sure, maybe they reapply buffs because the aura does buffs, but you know what I mean. It's going to affect how we interpret a lot of characters.
For sure. A purifier damage dealer. Maybe. I mean, Io and Kefka. We have a limited and a permanent.
What was the suggestion? A purifier?
Vintage Blaze said, I guess a purifier damage. Oh, he says Esper. Okay, gotcha. There's
Yeah.
actually a few Espers that Fire is missing. Like they don't have any kind of magic-oriented Esper.
Nope.
Especially that's one issue I always had with Fire Glassy, is that you pretty much have to use, or at least back in the day, Bahamut was really kind of the most compelling option.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the idea of adding more Espers. They're doing a good job of it. These recent string of Espers are good additions. Obviously, would like to see more to give some variety to team building. Honestly, I think Espers are likely more influential in many ways than the Vision cards, because those have more tangible effects on the board, which are kind of those permanent stats that you can put on at any given time that you want, no matter what. They obviously add some really good stats. The agility tuning is imperative for how fast some of those Espers are. That, yeah, if you get creative with the boards, I think that's one of the most consistent ways you can well round your character.
one thing I had mentioned before that I do want to see at fourth anniversary is um, espers get level 120. They get their EX levels, and maybe they get some new trees and some more points that you can kind of build them out differently. And I think that would be a lot of fun and pretty cool.
Yeah, I would love to see what they did with the fourth iteration. Whether they just expand the board further. I mean, that seems kind of lazy if they're not going to give the extra SP either. And if they do, that would be a significant power creep to have certain espers at 4 stars and others not. But then again, I do think that is a good way to more creatively build your characters. If you just get more access to more nodes. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I think we're caught up on questions, quite honestly, guys. And I don't know if we had anything else off the shelf we were going to talk about. We covered kind of our big ones of the character releases here.
A little bit more freeform than we're used to. We're diving over the place, but I had a lot of fun doing this. I mean, this
Me too.
was thanks everybody for kind of coming in and giving us all this stuff to work with. I hope it's been fun and yeah, for you guys too.
Yeah. And actually, I think this is a good one to answer. Actually, it's two to answer, and then we'll probably start to wind stuff down. The first answer or first question, I'll go out of order here for Ryan Pro. Thinking it's worth holding on to the Road to Worldwide tickets. I would say spend them now. I don't know of any upside in the future to hold on to those. The pool they're pulling from is this pool. It's not going to change. Pull them now, get your medals, move on. So I'll answer that. I like moderately apathetic's question here ahead of time though. Do you think morale will improve after the worldwide version arrives, or will game revenue and player satisfaction continue to decline? Do you have any strong opinions on that?
I think that purely depends on Gumi's approach. Do they want to get everybody into this worldwide version to improve the gaming experience and get more players interested long term and continue to have loyal customers that pay every month like they have been? Or are they just trying to blow this out in a few months and try to get what money they can here as they shut things down? The proof is in the pudding with what they actually do here over the coming months. I hope that they find value in customers that have paid monthly and have been loyal and like ourselves and a number of others that they'll continue to operate the game in that way.
I agree. I do think morale will improve. It's just going to take a long time. This is very topical to us right now. We're feeling it very hard. I think once we get the new normal, expectations are finally set. We get back into a regular rhythm. JP is not on this accelerated timeline at the moment, so their gameplay is not disrupted. Sure, things are they're trending downward, but I don't think that's necessarily indicative of like player experience. It's probably just indicative of they're top down, can't spend much more. I mean, that's a pretty normal part of a game's cycle and the revenue stream, and not just gotcha games. Most products, if you look at revenue life cycle, it's like a science at this point. But I do think morale will improve. It's just going to take some time to kind of just move on, if that makes sense. Accept the new normal, accept the game for what it is, probably play it a little more casually, not hoard. And honestly, game balance might be better for us because we're not going to have this pendulum roadmap of like things we're saving for. And that might be why some of these metas get super hard stuck for a while, is because we have the foresight to know that they're there. And so our game experience becomes very cookie cutter. And I think once you get rid of that roadmap and you're kind of left in the chaos of like not knowing what the future brings, I think it just lets up the reins for a lot of people. And yeah, I do think more will improve, but probably just different.
Yeah.
I think that was it. Appreciate the positive feedback on this. Again, I know it's kind of winding down here as we sort of phase things out. I did have one last thing I was going to mention. Oh, this is actually kind of big. As of tomorrow or the day after, I haven't told anyone this yet, other than some people internally. I'll be retiring from Visiport. That's going to be a thing. So one of my things with the game, and I've come to realize I've played long enough, is the overlap with IRL responsibilities, the grind, as we were talking about earlier, the 7 days in, 7 days out. it's just kind of becoming too much, and it's like disrupting my sleep where I'm like waking up at 4 a.m. and mocking when I shouldn't. Wednesday mornings, the 4 a.m. like that's I'm like ready to go and like do the new content. Monday mornings, 4 a.m. I'm ready to like read the news. So it's throwing off my sleep patterns. It's like interfering with stuff, and I'm at the point where I'm like, no, I got everything I wanted. We were number one for like years. I'm gonna go to I'm Retired, which is headed up by our former leader, and I'm just gonna like coast in the hundreds and just play casually. And that's kind of my own way of like reconciling the road to worldwide too, where I'm not gonna have to play at this like number one level, and they're going free to play anyway. They're doing the same thing. But yeah, I'll be on the way out, and honestly, I'm actually very excited because one of the big hurdles in my content creation is that I can't give away the teams we use. So like all the Guild War content, very secretive because I can't show teams, I can't show walls. Now I go back to being like more casual play. Dude, I can do Guild War content all day. No, nothing proprietary there. So yeah, figured I'd throw that out here too.
There you go.
That's it. Thank you.
So I think that there's so many good players in that guild that you'll probably be finding yourself up into the 50s or higher here in not too long.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm Retired is still undefeated after like 4 months in. They're yeah. It's basically all the retirees from the former VIP. That was the top of the game, and they're just casual, but they're still kicking ass. So like, yeah, it'll be fun. But no, I'm not starting my own guild, Robotaku. It did cross my mind though. JB, obviously you being leader, Howl is probably super fun, but there's a voice in my head that was like, if I'm trying to distance myself, being a guild leader is not a good. That's like out of the frying pan into the fire. If you know what I mean, of responsibility.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Thankfully, at least in my guild, it's pretty much everybody's kind of does what they need to do, so I don't really need to get involved too much.
That's true. Yeah, good stuff. How about
one thing I will say is that I've had a lot of fun with the live audience. It's something that we did talk about like initially, kind of starting up the podcast. It seems like the feedback is pretty good, so I think it's something that we should probably work in a little more often.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll get better at this too, guys. I apologize. Like we had a rough agenda, but this is the first time it was really just kind of a hangout. I know we wanted to initially do the pre-recording so that we could like streamline 1 hour of pure content for you guys. Those that missed this live stream are going to walk into like a 2.5 hour video, and I don't really know if people want to watch that. Maybe they do. That'd be cool if they do. But the feedback, everyone here, super happy to have you. You've absolutely made this really fun. Love the engagement, great questions, a lot of fun stuff here. But yeah, I don't know. Any other topics or questions people want to go over? JB, anything come to mind for you?
What do you think is going to be coming next week? I guess. Do you think we're finally going to get summer next week?
I do. Yeah. I think not only because it's mid-August, end August for us, it's perfect timing for that. I actually think the JP roadmap, we're not that far behind. Because if it's not the summer units, it would be Bridal Jaden. And then obviously Bridal Allied, not far behind at all. But I do think it's just a smidge too soon for them. I would think they would do the summer units given the timing. But anything's possible. How about you?
I wouldn't be surprised to see them throw in like a 70 cost unit in with those as like a secondary banner.
How so?
Like,
what do you mean?
either Bronwell or Shawls here, like as kind of parallel with the summer stuff.
Definitely.
Just to kind of, because I feel like if they are gonna crunch things, like we have to crunch at some point and have some overlapping banners like we expected.
Yeah.
It's weird to me that they had that big announcement and then here we are almost a month later, and yeah, they moved some things up and they shifted some VCs up and whatnot, but there hasn't actually been a real crunch as I expected yet.
I don't think so either. No, they're kind of yes and no. Yes and no. The vision cards are a big component of it.
Yeah, the vision cards being moved up for sure.
Final Fantasy V leapfrogging Raph was a big one. That was unexpected. I think that was out of order, right? Raph came before the 5 collaboration in JP.
But it was more of like a reshuffling. It's we haven't really had any overlapping units yet.
No, that's true. But the reshuffling, like the Final Fantasy V banner was 3 units, and so where you might have had longer time to, I don't know, save. Not that much more time. You'd have a week, not a big deal. But you know what I mean. They accelerated the 3 units before they did 1 unit. That even then, no, never mind. I'm wrong. You know why? Because the Final Fantasy V collab lasts like 6 weeks. So it doesn't really matter when they release the 5 units because you're going to have 6 weeks to pull them or pull the shards. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else, so
No, that's
maybe
about probably cut it off here.
call it a night here.
Yeah, about 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah, guys, thank you again so much for sticking around and watching the stream with us. We'll definitely be entertaining doing something like this again. Hopefully, have it a little more polished and streamlined, and uh, pre-submit questions that we can have something else to work with. But appreciate everyone being here tonight. Hopefully, the past couple of weeks have been still a fun experience despite the bad news. You know, we'll find our own ways to have fun with it. I know we have like the draft league that we're in right now too. That's obviously like a load of fun on the side for Kayshawn and his channel. That's really it for now. Yeah.
I think that's the key thing is there's a lot of fun things going on in the community. It doesn't all have to come from Gumi.
Right.
I've run a manual league where I've similar to what Kayson has done. I've completely rebalanced the cost structure of all the units and makes it a little bit more fair in terms of what the value to cost ratio is. And obviously Kayson has that WDL, which has been a lot of fun. So continue to support those and join those if you're interested in doing it.
Yeah, definitely. But that's it for now, everybody. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you all next week.
All right, see you next.